Hi, this is Dana, and I'm going to go over some thoughts on Poser and other things. One of the things I saw in the beginning of my hobby was people coming online and saying rendered in Maya, or is it Maya? Either way, they would get these high-end programs and say it was rendered by this. Now, the reason I don't usually mention what I render in is because I don't really think it makes a difference. I know you probably think I'm crazy for saying this, but I'll elaborate. The problem with people just saying rendered in Cinema 4D, rendered in Maya, rendered in whatever, is that some of them tend to not have the basic skill of 3D animation and composition down first. They're using a render engine as the sole basis for their artwork. No. One thing that's never stressed enough is that Poser, Maya, Cinema 4D, any 3D application out there are tools that you should basically learn how to use the basics of it. Then you can add more tools to implement into your style. Someone asked me recently if Octane was worth it. And my answer is depending on what you want to do. It also depends if you have a NVIDIA video card as well, but that's a given the advertisement. Now, the short answer is garbage in, garbage out. Now, the long answer is that what Octane does is replaces a CPU rendering system with a GPU rendering system, or CUDA system in the NVIDIA video cards. If you notice any video game that does real-time rendering, they tend to look fantastic despite it going real-time 30, 50 frames per second. And you might be going, why don't I get that same performance in Poser? The reason is that Poser uses a CPU-based system, and that architecture is much slower than a video card. I am a doctorate of information technology student, so please take my word for it. I have gone over the subject many times in the past. A GPU-based rendering is actually a lot faster and can do the calculations for a physical-based render, or basically you put a light in and it will respond as light would in real life. However, if you're not lighting the scene well, it's not going to look great. If you're using Octane to automatically light your scene, you're doing it wrong. It should take the basis of your light system already and expand it to make it photorealistic. Now, one of the person in question was going for Final Fantasy type rendering, and for that I would actually recommend the Octane render engine. Efficient, realistic look. If you're going for, say, what I do with my graphic novels, I render out the scene, then I put a plug-in. One thing I'll ask is, why bother? Sometimes I will take out certain functions of a ray tracer just because it will not show up with the with a filter in place. So I'm not waiting 5 minutes for a render for quality that's not going to be there in the end. So one thing I would recommend is understanding what your style is first and seeing what tools will help you facilitate that style. And lastly, on a related note, the best thing to do is learn about lighting. Now, I won't comment on the Poser lighting system too much because I don't use it. And if people like the Poser lighting system, that's perfectly great. I have personally found that some people work great with one kind of interface and work terrible with the other, and vice versa. One example, I cannot use brush some days because of the interface. There, that said it. But one thing that remains consistent with all the applications are lighting models and rendering techniques. Now, a point light has been called a lot of different things in different applications, but it's still the same thing. If it's called a point light or omnidirectional, it's a source of light that expands all around versus a spotlight which points in a particular direction, or infinite light that will point in a similar direction but simulate it from a farther distance. There are so many techniques out there that are similar to all these 3D applications, and it is worthwhile to do some research, see how you can improve your lighting, improve your rendering. Because if you get your rendering to a certain point that your lighting's looking good, but you want a certain style, like that only physical-based render engines will go, it will help you transition from what you're doing now into getting Octane. Essentially, the entire point of this vlog is to concentrate on the artwork. Concentrate on your composition skills. The point of the vlog is to encourage focusing on your composition skills. This is something that is universal throughout every program. And I'm not talking about composition like putting one layer of image over another layer of image over another layer of image. That is multipass, and yes, it uses the same thing, but what I'm talking about is, okay, I have Victoria 4 here. I need a light behind her. I need a light in front of her. I need a light to the side of her. I'm going to put some plants here. Do I want those blurred out? Those sort of things that makes a picture. Now, I do a lot of things to my renders afterwards in post effects, but I try to focus on the pre-rendering aspects and get that tied down. So when I get into post-render, I can work on making it look great. And that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening and have a great week. Bye.